Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. And so is the gentleman that is sitting to my right. We're going to find out if he's an EntreMusician or not. In fact, his name is Lawrence Smith. He's my newfound friend. I should say Lawrence R. Smith III, actually, to be
Yes, sir.
very formal about it. But before we get into music reports, because that's what we're going to talk about, I've discovered this wonderful company, and we're going to learn more about it together. Before we do that, let's do this. As you know, all of our videos are sponsored by the wonderful people at Vocal. Vocal is the only beverage on the planet designed to soothe, refresh, and restore your voice. If you talk all day like Lawrence and I do, or you sing all night, you got to check out Vocal. Go to drinkvocal.com to learn more. Now, I am in an interesting position, and I happen to be at Planet Fitness doing my workout, going through some podcasts, and I heard about this company called Music Reports. Listened to the podcast, was intrigued, and called the number. And you know what? I didn't get a robot. I got a person. That's an advantage. I asked some questions, and I was rerouted to this gentleman who's sitting here. His name is Lawrence Smith, and he was able to answer my questions. Whoa! Now we're going to talk about what we learned. Lawrence, first and foremost, welcome to the gig. How's everything, my friend?
I'm doing great, Jared. Thanks for having me, man.
Now, are you a musician?
I am, actually, yeah.
Excellent. So you are an EntreMusician. Very cool. So
Indeed.
Tell me a little bit of your story, and then we'll get into music reports.
Absolutely. Well, I was born in Oklahoma, grew up in Georgia. From Georgia, I went to college in Florida. Went to a college called Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. Got a bachelor's degree in music business from there. Recording arts. We got my associates in recording arts. So I think as far as musicianship goes, I'm most mediocrely a singer and guitar player, but I dabble with a little bit of everything. And, Pro Tools certified, record my own stuff. So just out there trying to do it,
Wow, that's interesting because I was just kidding when I said, are you a musician? But you are. And
Yeah.
Full Sail is a great place. That's a great school.
Oh, it's a fantastic school. It's a little expensive, but it's very worth it. They give you a crash course in pretty much everything concerning recording arts or recording music, mixing, mastering, setting up live sound systems. And then if you go to the bachelor's degree, they give you economics classes and, they teach you pretty much everything. So
that's fantastic. That's not the campus in Florida is not the only campus they have. Is that correct?
When I went to Full Sail, I went from 2006 to 2008. That was the only campus at the time. Mm-hmm. I know that they were thinking about opening a remote campus here in California. I'm not sure if they've actually done that yet. I feel like I probably would have heard about it if they did. Wow. But, I'm not sure if they might have remote campuses in other locations, but I haven't been to them yet. So
that's awesome. Now tell me the story of how you got to Music Reports, and then we'll apply real deep into what that
absolutely. Oh, well, in 2009, I moved to Los Angeles. I started working in the music industry as an assistant for music managers at Prospect Park. Didn't really dig it there too much. Found myself kind of like a goldfish in a shark tank, if that makes sense. Didn't really have the same type of morals that some of the managers might have had. And I actually enjoyed listening to music, which was a little different for most of them. So decided to get into more of the metadata creative licensing side of it. I met a gentleman named Zach Sinek, who is currently the head of sync for Hid in a Corner, which is basically Imagine Dragons label. So he does all the sync for them. At the time, he was trying to start a music supervision company called Woofer Music and Sound. I got in there and got a little bit of information about, just publishing in general, what copyrights are, and how to keep a database full of sync-ready, what we call sync-ready material, basically. So you can just put it right into commercials, or just basically it's ready to be exploited. It's ready to gain money and accrual, royalties at that point. And from there, he never actually got the money to take off to start his own company. So I took that database knowledge into a company called Music Reports. I found them. They were hiring for a copyright data analyst at the time. And I just fell right into the position. That was a lot of just entering catalogs from publishers such as yourself, and then also major publishers. From there, I was moved into the royalties coordinator spot, and that's where I get to speak to publishers like yourself now and help them. It's more of it's not a traditional license administration company, and the fact that we don't work for the publishers, we actually work for the DSPs. So we get a lot of publishers that have a lot of questions because we send them, these, indeed, we send them these cryptic kind of copyright notices a lot of the times, compulsory notices, and, a lot of independent publishers are interested. So I found it pretty nice to sit there and educate the people who want to be educated and, help the people who don't want to be educated. So
that's fantastic. Now I'm going to read you a quote from your website, and that you didn't make this quote. Okay. This quote was from Michael Shanley. Would that be
Shanley?
Shanley. Yeah. That would be the gentleman. If I can get my phone open to this, but I want to read this because I want you to explain it. Ready for it?
Sure.
The goal on your website, Music Reports is a neutral technology platform that services both users and owners of intellectual property rights. Our main goal is to supply technology into intellectual property rights ecosystem to supply transparency throughout the process of distribution, royalty payments, fee settlements, licensing, and all that stuff. Okay, so some of us EntreMusicians know that, and some of us go, okay, what?
That's a mouthful, yeah.
Right. So explain, what does Music Reports do for
that's a loaded question.
Musicians like myself?
There we go.
In layman's terms.
For independent publishers or for publishers in general, that's a very easy answer. What we're doing for publishers in this case, and in your case, is we are administering the mechanical licenses for the DSPs that we work for, the digital streaming providers. They have a very particular service that they offer to customers called interactive streaming services. So these services are services where you can stop, fast forward, rewind, skip to another album. Pretty much it allows you to interact with the service and to change the service at your whim. These are the services that we administer the mechanical licenses for. We calculate the mechanical remittance, and then we also remit the remittance or the royalties to the publishers at that point.
That's excellent. Now, some people are going to ask me, okay, Jere, you're touting this musicreports.com, and I want everybody to go to the website and check Music Reports out. But I work with EntreMusicians who deal with Soundexchange or Song Trust or, Words and Music. How does Music Reports differ from these other services?
So Soundexchange would be a company that you would go to for past accrued mechanical royalties. So if you have music that you released maybe 10 years ago, Songexchange kind of specializes in helping you find those royalties, regardless of it being mechanical or not. The main difference between most of the companies that you just mentioned and Music Reports is that we don't actually work for the publishers. We're working for the DSPs, the digital streaming providers. And in doing that, we get paid by the digital streaming provider, not the publishers. So you guys keep what they call the statutory rate for your mechanical licenses. That's the best rate that you can get per copyright law. So that would be the main difference between us and the other companies that you just mentioned.
And so to repeat, that's why your service is offered to people like me free of charge, because you're actually working for the DSPs.
Correct. We're keeping them within copyright law. So they hire us to follow copyright law as close as they can. So sometimes you have to interpret copyright law, and we have some amazing lawyers that do that. And all of our clients have enjoyed a very healthy royalty remittance cycle, if you will. No outside problems from any legal or anything like that. So,
and Music Reports has been in business 25 plus years.
Ooh, yes. We've been in business, I believe, since around 1995.
Mm-hmm.
And we originally started out as a company that would help local TV stations here in Los Angeles, actually, reporting to the PROs for the music that they would use.
I see.
So back in the day, there was not, from what I'm to understand, there were not these blanket licenses that you could buy for when you're a local TV radio station from a BMI or an ASCAP. Now there are, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But what we would do is we would help these local radio stations report to the PROs for the usage that they had so that they wouldn't get overcharged by the PROs. And that's kind of how we originally started, was just that's how Songdex came to creation, actually, was to have that transparency that you spoke about earlier for the local TV stations to see how much they're being charged, how much per play rate it is. It's not just a random figure from the PROs that they have to pay every month, you know?
That was my next question about the Songdex, because I see that on the website as well as Q-Track. So is Q-Track more for music supervisors or?
Oh, well, we have the Q-Track. Currently, that would be for reporting to PROs on behalf of all digital streaming providers, but these would be such streaming providers as like Netflix or Hulu, and then we still work with local radio or local TV stations as well. So we have a Q-Track system that just is more. It's put together with Songdex, so they work separately. Where we have a whole music research team that will research cues for these television shows or whichever film that they're working on. And at that point, they will input it into what we have as the Q-Track program. So the Q-Track program will work in conjunction with Songdex, and all of that information will go into Songdex at that point.
Wow. Okay. So how many musicians are under the employ of music?
There are quite a few. Probably pretty much everybody in copyright is a musician of some kind. And then, oh man, I would say our office is probably about 100 people. It would be safe to say that about half of those people play instruments, and then the other half are completely in love with music, of course. So
amazing. So I don't understand how we've been maybe 8 months, if that. My exposure to you from our first conversation and you answering a bunch of questions for me. What I don't understand is why more musicians do not know about music reports. I know it's growing. I know your website, you guys are getting larger or becoming the world's foremost system. But maybe I should rephrase the question, because it's not just musicians. You definitely want to have a stable of publishers who know about you. You definitely want to have a stable of songwriters, but you also want to make sure that you're servicing the Spotify's, Pandora's,
of course,
and companies like that.
Of course.
So it's not necessary for the general public or the general community of musicians to necessarily know that music reports exist. Is that right? Wow.
Well, I think if you're
I'm asking the wrong question, but go for it.
I was going to say, I think if your music is on a digital, one of these interactive streaming services that I've spoken of, we don't administer all of them, but I would say that we probably administer about 60 to 70% of the major ones, if not more. So I've never done that statistic, so don't quote me on that. But we administer a large portion of the interactive streaming services in the market right now. So if you have music on any of those interactive streaming services, it's likely that we have sent you one of those lovely NOIs that we send out to people. And I think at the moment, we've sent out over 10 million of those NOIs to independent publishers. So in the music industry is very well aware of us. When we first started sending out NOIs, it was kind of people weren't too very pleased, I guess you could say, with the amount of CNOIs, which we were turning into the Copyright Office, which are, when you can't find a publisher's address, you'll turn it into the Copyright Office. At that point, you'll see NOI, you'll copyright notice of intention to the Copyright Office.
Yeah.
And the Copyright Office is also very well aware of us as well. The people that deal with copyright law know who we are. But outside of that, it's probably we're not a big name like DistroKid or CD Baby or Tunecore or Songexchange or even the Harry Fox agency, because we don't work for the publishers. So
Gotcha.
a lot of the times when you're looking for a company, what are you going to type into Google? You're going to type in, who can administer my royalties, or what's a good distribution company for me? That's not Music Reports. But it is kind of, in a way. It's a better version of those companies, I would say, personally, because we're not taking money from the publishers. We're taking money from the digital streaming providers, who really should be paying, for the administration of these licenses, not the publishers, right?
So in other words, they're hiring you to police them.
Correct. Very much so correct. Which is what's happened now with, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the MMA, the Music Modernization Act. But that's pretty much
digging into that.
They pretty much have, the government has pretty much said that they need an entity that is doing exactly what Music Reports is doing right now. They did not say that they need Music Reports to be that entity, but I feel, just from my limited knowledge of copyright law and administering mechanical licenses, there's not another company like us. All the other companies that are like us charge publishers. And what this new entity, which is going to be called the MLC, or the Music Licensing Collective, is going to do, is not going to charge publishers to administer their licenses. They're going to charge the DSPs to administer those licenses. So it's pretty much this new entity, the MLC, which will take over all mechanical licensing, compulsory licensing, and pretty much also the voluntary license. They're going to put their little hands in the voluntary licenses as well, get some administration fees for that too. But they want an entity that's doing exactly what Music Reports is doing now. They want a central database that's transparent, where you can see who owns what, who the copyright owner is, who is the administrator for this catalog, who are the composers, what percentage does this publisher own in Germany? Are there sub publishing deals going on here? So they want one central database for that, to be able to let the publishers go sign up for it, and then it's one spot where you can collect all of your mechanical royalties. And I think Music Reports has been trying to be that entity, but you can only convince so many DSPs to play along. A lot of these companies, in my opinion, they don't want to pay to be in the market. They want to be a part of this big boom. I mean, it's business, right? They want to spend as least money as they can to make as much money as they can. Yeah. So it's expensive to follow copyright law. The things that we do, sending out these NOIs, cost thousands of dollars every month to send out paper NOIs. And that's something that you have to do as part of the copyright law now, so.
Are you saying that you have to send out the paper? That's something.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's not just the digital, because I elected not to receive all those trees.
If you elect to not receive it, then that's a way that our company has kind of gone around having to send out the physical NOI at that point. You've already elected that you will accept them digitally. So at that point, we can deliver them to you digitally, which is another reason why we even have the publisher accounts in the first place. The statements that we give you guys quarterly, which now are going to become monthly under the new, there's another bill inside of the MMA they call Phono Records 3. The copyright judges just passed it, which means all of your mechanical royalty rates will be going up by 40% over the next 5 years. Yes, because that is what these publishers are making billions of dollars off of. I don't know if you've seen the reports, but Universal and Warner are making record profit off of streaming, and the Phono Records 3 is going to help put some of that money into the publisher's hands, and not so much into the copyright owner's hands, let's say that, and the writer's hands, and not just so much the labels of the publishers.
That's beautiful news. That's beautiful. I knew I needed to have you on here for a reason. How come you're so passionate about what you do? Tell me that.
Well, I'm a musician too. And when a musician like yourself, or even just a nice publisher like yourself, calls in and they seem genuinely interested in what's going on and how they're able to collect their entire remittance, I like to educate people not in the fact because I think I'm better or because I think I know more, but because I genuinely want to help musicians get paid. You know, I was a struggling musician from the age of 14 to 25. I basically tried to live off of music, and I know how hard it is to make money off of music that you're putting up on the internet, you know, and you want some money back for it. So maybe we're not going to be your, maybe Music Reports is not going to pay your rent, but I can give you some advice on how to collect money from other avenues, what you should be doing to even advice about your distribution company agreements. You know, should you be administering with the company? Should you not? These are things that I like to speak to publishers about, and just generally helping musicians, I think, is something that is just a lot of fun for me to help, you know, somebody who is, I grew up in the South, so when I get a call from somebody like in Alabama or something, and they just are like, you know, it's an up and coming artist and they don't have any idea about what to do. They just put their music up on SoundCloud and now they're ready to go. I love when they call and they're like, can you please help me? I don't know what to do. The CD Baby told me this. Harry Fox is not getting back to me. I go, oh, lovely. Let's have a conversation. So that's why I think I'm so passionate about it. I want to help musicians get paid.
That's excellent, man. That's beautiful. I can tell you, as I said before, about the first time I called, and I was expecting a robot, and someone picked up the phone. You know what I mean? Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And they gave me to another person. And I didn't have to wait 7 minutes listening to elevator music. I mean, you picked right up, hey, here's what's happening. And then after you saw the conundrum I was in, 4 separate publishing entities, and you guys were able to hook me up with one login for the catalog that I presented to you. Come on. Absolutely incredible. I mean that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we take a lot of pride in the customer service that we offer. Even though you guys aren't our customers, we still want to offer that customer service because we're representing our clients, you know? And it's, if you guys pick up and you're calling to try to get on Pandora, or you don't know what's going on with your SoundCloud remittance, or, you know, for whatever reason, if for whatever question about whatever client we have, if you guys call and we treat you, you know, in a way that we don't want to speak to you, or we're short with you, that to me, that reflects upon our client, which we don't want, right? So it is customer service in the fact that we are fielding these questions on behalf of the DSPs. And to me, it helps if you educate the people that you're talking about and you tell them what you know and you try to get them on the level. I mean, this is my job. I will go there every day. You know, I'm not taking shortcuts. Some people might not bring up certain things that I bring up. Let's cause trouble. You know, let's create problems for me to solve here. Like, this is what I want to do. So.
Wow, I'm going to call you tomorrow.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna think of some problems for tomorrow. But man, that's absolutely excellent. Now, what question do you think when we set up this interview that you wish that I would ask you? I know he's going to ask me this, and I haven't asked.
Oh man, I feel like you've done a pretty good job. Let's see. I would say nothing sticks out to me particularly. But I would say that I think the one thing that would be important for people that are using Music Reports and Songdex to know is that since we don't work for the publishers or the songwriters, it's very important that as you release music or distribute music into the universe, that you update us. We don't proactively search for new music. So sometimes we will get, the way that everything works usually is that our clients will obtain master rights from distribution companies or labels. So let's just say you put an album out that month. One of our clients, Pandora, goes and they blanket license everything that they don't have yet from CD Baby for that month. Your album that you just released that month is in there. So we get those master licenses, basically, the CML, the client metadata, basically. We go and then we look for where can we find an address for this publisher. So let's say you just gave that album out to your distribution company. You put it up on your ASCAP. That's the only album you have. Let's say it's 2007. You're ready to go, right? We go and we see the information on ASCAP. We take it, or BMI or CSEC or wherever, whichever performance rights organization you're with, we put that into our system. You're now accruing royalties for that album. I think what most publishers then think is that, oh, they're just going to, as I release things, music reports, they got me. They're just going to update my catalog. This is where it becomes a little confusing. We don't work for the publishers, so we don't. You guys have to submit your catalog updates to us. And then at that point, we are connecting all the accurate royalties to your catalog at that point. If you don't report it to us, we might just have the information sitting there, and for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't on the PRO, maybe we couldn't find it, maybe our client hasn't licensed it, maybe one client did license it, but we couldn't find it on the PROs, so now it's sitting there and accruing royalties for one client, but not for the rest of the clients because we can't share the license information, basically.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to update us with as full information as you can. And that's something that makes Songdex what it is and makes it such a good tool for everybody to use. And it's actually open for all the publishers as well. You know, we actually just launched a column or a section on our website where, as a publisher, you can go in and look through Songdex now. And I think that's really cool because, you know, do you have a question about who wrote an AC/DC song? It's right there. Do you have a question about, you know, who wrote Sonny Rollins' Sax Colossus? You can see the publisher splits right there on Songdex. So it's really cool if you're ever just like, oh, wow, I wonder what the publisher splits on this album is. You can go and look, and probably for the most part, you can find it. And you can also find administration information and composer information. And it's something that's a wonderful tool for the music community all around. Mm-hmm. But the way that tool becomes useful is if the publishers are updating us regularly.
Well, you just said something that hit home, because as EntreMusicians, we have to be responsible for doing the homework that's necessary. Metadata, doing the metadata on the songs as we release them out is
very important
on us. I mean, to be as detailed as possible, because when you're putting those things out, whether you're using Pro Tools or SoundForge or whatever you're using, you have to fill in those things because they stay with the audio. No matter where it goes,
yes,
even if it's in a mashup or anything like that, you know?
Yes, and I think it's important for a lot of self-publishers to realize, too, that you don't have to have an LLC to be a publisher. As soon as you record that song and you play it, if you play it in your living room, it's been published.
That's correct.
Okay? If you put it up on SoundCloud, it's been published. If you, as soon as it hits anybody's ears, it's published. So it very much so behooves you to make sure that metadata is in there and is as detailed as possible. Because if anybody tries to steal it, or just for whatever reason, everything right now is heading towards digital content.
Yes,
so,
sir.
You know, people are not buying as much CDs, obviously, anymore. There's a little bit of a resurgence in vinyl, but for the most part, these publishers are reporting billions of dollars in profit in streaming. So if you want your music if you want to be accounted to appropriately for the usage of your music, it definitely behooves you to make sure that metadata is correct and that it's there. And if you don't know how to do it, you should learn how to do it. I mean, you can open iTunes and you can just, exactly, the year of the copyright date. It's also important to remember that things are not copywritten unless you go and register it with the Copyright Office. So you can't just mail yourself, oh, I copyright this and it's copywritten. That's an old wise tale that doesn't work. The fact that as soon as you create it, it is technically copywritten. Mm-hmm. But if you want to have any legal recourse, and the copyright court actually just ruled on this today, a federal court actually just ruled on this today, that if you want to have legal recourse against somebody that's using your copywritten material, you have to have it registered with the Copyright Office. So they will give you time to register it, and then you can actually, you know, if you want to go to court after that, then you can go to court. But until you actually physically have it registered with the Copyright Office, you don't have any legal recourse. So that's right? Exactly. So that's also something that you really, really want to do as an independent publisher. You want to make sure that you're going and you're registering appropriately with the Copyright Office so that you have protection. You know, it's I think it's 75 years plus the life of the artist. So right now, currently, so I mean, that's a lot of protection, and that's not every country has that. And I think you should take advantage of that as an independent publisher. You should really take advantage of copywriting your ideas and your music, you know?
That's excellent. So here's what we're going to do, and we're going to put you on the spot because we're running out to the end of our episode here. But so you are now going to be our go-to resource guy for all things copyright. Lawrence Smith, whether we talk music reports specifically or not, or whether we just pick Lawrence's brain at the EntreMusician. What do you think?
Let's do it.
It's a great gig. It doesn't pay much.
I'm good. You know what it pays is it pays the artists. There you go.
Absolutely. Well, we're so grateful to have Lawrence Smith from musicreports.com. And of course, I'm going to put everything in the description box below. You definitely want to at least call and have a conversation. If you had questions like I did, I had maybe 42 questions. He answered them all. Another thing that they did was, as I was submitting the catalog, there were some things that was incorrect after, getting all of the paperwork back. And it was no problem. I mean, nobody gave me a hard time. They said, oh, we can fix that. Boom, boom, boom. And it was done. So here's a company. If you're a publisher, independent publisher, if you're a songwriter, you have questions, this is a place that you can go that helps. I've received the help. So I'm not just, I didn't pay Lawrence under the table. They actually help you. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much for your time, man. Any last words? Any closing words?
Oh, well, it was a pleasure getting to speak with you today. And then, just remember that, sign up on musicreports.com. And then, we're here to help you guys. Any questions or concerns that you guys have, there's always a royalties coordinator that's there to answer it for you, even if it doesn't pertain to music reports. We always have time to speak to the independent publishers.
It's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Well, peace and blessings to you. Thank you for tuning in. You share this video, give it to any publisher that
Definitely.
That's Lawrence Smith. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. We will see you next time. God bless.
Later.